question for you to start off this evening. Are there any comic book fans in the house? There are, like actual comic books. Like the things that you see around you. Straight up comics. Cool, that's amazing, I'm surprised. What about superhero movies? You guys like those? Everybody likes a good superhero movie, am I right? Thor, the Avengers, Spider-Man, all that good stuff. A lot of the best-selling movies out there right now, go figure, are based on comic book characters and superheroes who just so happen to have what? Oh! Nailed it on the first try. Alter egos. An alter ego is what?
Like different personalities, like one thing
Oh, everybody hear that? Like a second personality, like a hidden identity. Another side. For example, let's talk about a few of these superheroes. Let's talk about Tony Stark. What's Tony Stark's alter ego? Iron Man. What about Peter Parker? Spider-Man does what Spider-Man does. Alright. Clark Kent. Superman. Oh, my man. Clark Kent. And Dr. Bruce Banner? The Incredible Hulk. You wouldn't like him when he's angry. Hulk smash! Yeah! Right? Alright, now the kicker here, of course, is that these alter egos are unknown to the outside world, aren't they? Usually, maybe one or two of their friends, somebody close to them, might know their true identity. Maybe. But everybody else is completely oblivious, am I right? Most of us cannot fly. Most of us can't walk on walls with superhuman strength, and we probably can't telepathically control robots with their minds, right? Now I say most of us because I don't want one of you try to prove me wrong and hurt yourself in the process. Looking over there. Now, some of you guys might have a pretty bad temper that probably could start to resemble somebody like the Incredible Hulk, but we'll save that for another series another time. Right? Now, all of us, though, do have parts of us that remain hidden, that are like an alter ego. Parts of us that we try to hide. We might say things or think things or do things or things like that might seem like they're almost coming from a completely different person. Right? Does that ring true for anybody? It's like the other side of us, the darker, unseen side. I should have put Darth Vader up there. My goodness, how did I miss that? Now, to the outside world, right, we present this whole, we've got it all together, superhero side more often than not. We try to at least, right? But deep in our hearts, we know that there's another side of us. There's an alter ego happening. So over the next few weeks, you guys, we are going to talk about exactly that. We're going to talk about 3 strong personality traits of these alter egos. Now, that's not going to be all-encompassing. We're not going to hit every single one. These are 3 that we're going to focus on over these next 3 weeks, tonight and the 2 weeks to come. Things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about not the superhero versions of us, but rather that other side of us, the real us. The side that nobody sees, right? And the hope is that this series is going to give you some clarity on that, and that you're going to be able to realize or recognize some of those things within yourself that maybe you otherwise hadn't and wouldn't. And maybe we can even talk about some of those things just a little bit. It should be great. Now the goal, of course, is for you to walk out of here feeling a little bit better, so that because you've realized that you're not alone in these struggles, when you feel like, I don't know if anybody really knows the real me. I don't know if I'm really being the real me. I don't know how to deal with that. Well, maybe you can walk into your feeling better because you're not alone. Every one of us deals with that on some level or another at one point in time in our lives or another. It's just a fact. And hopefully you walk out feeling better because you realize there's some hope for that darker side of you as well. And you know what? If you're here and you don't believe in God, or you don't believe in Jesus, or you're not really sure about this whole thing, you're just trying to figure it out, that's okay. Because what we're going to talk about these next few weeks can still apply to you, can still be incredibly helpful to you. And the 3 things that we're going to talk about apply to somebody, whether you want to come to church every single week of your life, or if you're just checking this whole thing out and trying to figure things out for yourself. No matter where you land on that spectrum, it's okay. It doesn't matter. As long as you're trying to sort through and find answers to these darker issues, you're going to discover, though, that God has something to say to you, and something freeing to say to you. Now, there's a lot of stress in the life of a teenager, is there not? Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes? That was kind of weak. Really, guys? You agree, right? It's hard, right? It's hard. I'm sorry to say it doesn't get a whole lot easier, but it is a really hard time. Now, let's talk about a few examples of some of those stresses. How about social media? I love social media, but it's kind of interesting because social media is the only place that you can legally stalk somebody. Well, maybe not legally, but you can stalk somebody pretty much with getting away with it, not getting caught. Am I right?
Yeah.
You can go, like if you're a guy, right? You can go and you can find out your ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend, right? Now, he's a fine-looking fella. Maybe you wish you hadn't, because you look at him and you say, oh man, how do I stack up to that? He's a model. He plays 3 different sports. He's got a 4.0 GPA. And oh man, he went on a mission trip this summer and completely saved this small little country. Because of course he did. Right? And the stress is overwhelming. Family finances, guys. Maybe you guys don't think a whole lot about that, but think about this. Whether your family has a lot or maybe just a little, one way or another, this pressure is there. And you may not even realize it. Maybe your dad recently lost his job, and suddenly things are starting to feel a little bit pinched compared to the way that they were before. Or maybe, let's take this a different level. Because of that fact, money's a little tighter. Girls, let's just say the big dance is coming up, right? Now guys, we got it easy. All we got to do is rent some cheap tux and we're good to go. Or a cheap suit, whatever. Girls, you got to do your thing. I don't even know. I'm going to find out eventually, but we'll wait for that. Now, you guys have to spend a lot of money. It's just the way it goes. You got to spend a lot of money to get a dress and look all fancy and pretty, woo, right? But that costs money. It ain't easy. So, all right, let's say you come into this situation. The big dance is coming, and you find out that your budget for your dress and all your pretties and everything else is a whopping $20. Do you think that's going to cut it? No. So you're trying to decide at this point, okay, do I go to TJ Maxx and get the clearance rack and hope they have a coupon and maybe I can get something for like 20 bucks or less that looks halfway decent? Or am I going to have to go to the Goodwill store or the Salvation Army or something? Right? That could be stressful. That could be stressful. Maybe you got a little family drama going on. Maybe your family, your mom and your dad have been separated for quite a long time and all of a sudden out of the blue your mom comes home, brings home her new boyfriend, Rusty. The professional bowler who has a nice comb over and says, good news, honey, Rusty's moving in with us, yay! And you say, no, this is not the news I wanted to hear. What are you talking about? This guy's a creep. Really? It happens, guys. If it hasn't happened to you, you probably know somebody who's had something like that happen. Maybe it's not Rusty with the comb over, but something. Maybe it's your appearance. Maybe it's your looks. Guys, 15 years old, you want to grow this bad mustache, right? You've been working on it for 6 months. Oh, and it's still just peach fuzz, and you just can't get it to come in no matter how hard you try. Let me give you word advice. Stop trying. But that can be stressful because you're concerned about your appearance, and you want to look like you're grown up, but you just can't pull it off. Am I right? Reputation, guys. What about your rep? Maybe you want to have a good reputation, but you also don't want to get boxed in. Let's just throw this one out there, for example. You're the person who's funny. You're the person who makes people around you laugh. That's a good feeling. Anybody relate to that one? Yeah. It's great. It's a wonderful thing, but all of a sudden you start to feel this pressure, don't you? Because you're the funny person. You got to make everybody laugh. You always got to be on. And the next thing you know, this gift that you were given of being funny becomes a weight around your neck that pulls you down because that pressure is always there. You got to be funny, guy. Pressure. Maybe it's your dating life. Oh, goodness. Somebody just asked me about how old enough to date somebody. I said, if you're a girl, I said 35. She looked at me like she was going to turn into a ghost. But maybe you're worried about dates. Maybe you're worried about the dates that you have, or the ones that you don't have, or the ones that you wish you had, and you're sitting there praying 3 years, oh God, please let me have a date. I want to date somebody. And all of a sudden you get that date. Well, now you're freaking out because you got the date. Like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to wear. Are they going to like me? Do I have something in my teeth? I don't know. Right? And there's pressure and you're stressed and it's crazy. You're worried. Okay, great. Sore subject for anybody, grades. Some of you try really, really hard. Like you actually put forth effort, but the best you can do might be a C-. It's tough. Now on the flip side of that coin, some of you guys knock it out of the ballpark hard without even trying. And lo and behold, you want to tell everybody that maybe you didn't do so good. Oh, I got an A+, I better tell them I got a C- because I don't want to think I'm a nerd. Right? It happens. It's happened. I know it happens. Now, just take this another step further. Maybe you guys, I love that picture. Maybe you guys have heard this list, just a few examples of things that can stress you out and get you worried. Maybe you've heard this list and you're stressed now because you didn't even realize that you should be stressed about some of these things. Now you're stressed because you weren't stressed, and now you should be stressed, and now you're stressed because of it. I'm sorry. Oops. But maybe there's other things that you could add to this list. We could just go all night with different examples. Maybe you want to add something a little bit more serious, like an illness, right? Or something a little bit less serious, like whether or not those parents of yours are going to get you that chihuahua you've been asking for your birthday. Right? Cute. But, guys, we all have things that make us worried and stressed, and fearful and uncertain, don't we? Now, I've given you a few examples, but I want to bring the drama team out. Come on, guys. Come on out. They're going to put on a little show for you. Just a quick little thing. I want to give you guys, I want to give you guys a nice little visual representation of what it is that we're talking about. They're going to do a great job for you while they get set up of demonstrating something, whether you're 15 or 25 or 85, whatever. We all have these things that go through our minds and in through our lives. So they're going to set the scene for you here, set in a church, much like we are here right now, pondering the mysteries of life. I'm going to get out the way and let them do their thing.
Oh, I hate it when we're late. Everyone's looking at us. They're probably rolling their eyes and thinking about how late we always are. Did I turn off the stove? Did I? I think I did. I hope I did. Did I turn off the iron? I don't think I did. I know I didn't. I should probably leave and run home. I can't believe what a blockhead I am. Ron's always saying about how I'm going to burn the house down one day. Oh wait, the iron has an automatic shut-off. Did I turn off my cell phone?
Oh man, here comes the collection plate. Deb will kill me if I don't put this tithe in. But it's going to kill me if I do. How are we to pay our bills this month? Then there's Megan's ballet class and David's soccer fees. Is God going to take care of us if I don't put this in? Am I a bad Christian if I don't? Uh-oh. Think the pastor is looking at me. Yep, he's looking right at me. I know what you're thinking, smart guy. You're thinking I better put this tithe in or else. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm just a big fat sinner. I don't have any faith. Think I'm getting an ulcer.
Hey, Mr. Handsome Guy sitting on the front row. Yeah, I'm talking to you. How you doing? I see you looking this way. Oh, you're looking at Stephanie behind me, I bet. Wait, are you looking at me? Is he looking at me? Please be looking at me. Oh Lord, please let him notice me. He needs me. Not miss 2 perfect leads, 3 Bible studies behind me. Hey, hi. Lord, what do you want from me? I'm 25 and not married with no prospects. What am I going to do?
Wonder what would happen if aliens came down and took over the minds of only blonde-headed girls. And then the blonde-headed girls would read all of our minds, and they would tell it back to the aliens, and they would monitor all of our movements and what we ate, and drank, and thought, and ate, and I've got so much to do, I'm losing my mind. If I don't get those invitations done by next week, the whole committee is going to think I can't do the work. And then I have nothing to feed everybody after lunch, and Riley's science project is due Tuesday, and Brenda's costume for the play isn't finished, and I have no idea how I'm going to pay the electric bill.
I need a break. Praise the Lord.
I hope nobody heard that.
Look at me. Look at me.
I should probably look in my purse and make sure my phone is off.
Maybe I have a couple of bucks in my wallet.
I just need some help. I can't do this all by myself.
Give a hand, guys. Well done. Hey, we worry about a lot of different things, don't we?
Yes.
We worry about the future. We wonder, whoa, what's going to happen? Am I going to make the right decisions? What are they going to think about me? Do I look good? Will she say yes? Do I have what it takes? Am I good enough? We ever going to be friends again? Could be a million different things. The list could go on and on and on and on. The questions are endless, right? But it all boils down to this. Worry, you guys, means that you're going to be miserable in the present because you are too concerned and wrapped up with things that are yet to come, with things that come in the future. We are too embroiled in ourselves and too worried about things that we don't have no idea about down the line that we can't even live in the moment right now. It keeps us from living a decent life because we can't even enjoy the moment we're in now because we're so worried about what's yet to come. And that's a big deal. It weighs us down, it blocks joy and peace and contentment in everything that we do, and sometimes it can be the very thing that keeps us and stands in the way of our relationship with God. Oh, and one more thing, by the way, folks, it doesn't work. Does it? Have you ever freaked out about something and spent half the night pacing in your room thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? What if this doesn't happen? Or even worse, what if it does? Now, did that ever do you any good when you're going through that in that instant, because you worried enough about it, everything changed and the problem just went away? Of course it didn't! No way, it doesn't work. Your worry doesn't accomplish a thing. Probably already knew that. But still, knowing that worry doesn't help, does it? So, to tell ourselves, don't worry, we can tell ourselves, quit worrying about it, until we're blue in the face all night long, all day long, but it doesn't make it go away, does it? Here's why. You can't replace worry with nothing and expect it to go away. Worry needs a replacement. So, a lot of times, you think that maybe if I just work a little harder, maybe if I work to control the situation, that'll help. Now that's a whole other thing we could talk. We could seriously spend 3 weeks just on this subject alone. We think if we control the situation, that'll take care of it. We think, all right, well, I can handle the stress of this big game that's coming up. I'm just going to practice until I bleed. Or we got this huge test coming up. I'm going to study until my brains explode. That's going to help. I'm going to make sure that I'm certain about my future that I can't possibly be certain about, but I'm going to make sure that I am. There's nothing wrong with working hard and studying is great, but there's a big difference between working hard and controlling outcomes. Big difference. They're very different from each other. You can't control your teammates in the middle of a game, can you? Sometimes I bet some of you wish you could. But you can't. You can't control what questions are going to be on that big test. You can't control whether or not that girl or that guy like you back, can you? You can't control how much money your dad makes, or the college admissions board, who's going to be on it, or the DNA that you got from your parents that determines your height and your weight and your looks and your athletic ability and how well you can sing, and any of those things. I wish we could sometimes. Wouldn't that be nice? But we can't. Sorry, that's just the way it is. But what's fascinating is that in the middle of all of this, God has something to tell us in the midst of that. Something that you can do that has the potential to help you take that worry and to deal with it. Now, we're going to talk again about my friend Paul. We talked about Paul just a couple weeks ago, guys. Everybody remember that? We talked about when he wrote that letter to the Romans and all the crazy things that were going on in and around him at that time. Do you remember how crazy that was? Tonight, we're going to talk about a letter that he wrote to the church in Philippi. Now, interestingly enough, when he wrote the letter to Philippi, guess where he was? Huh? Rome. He was in Rome. Guess where he was in Rome? Jail. He was in prison. So all those things that he was kind of worried about coming true, well, they've happened now. He's sitting in a Roman prison, and he's writing to the church in Philippi. And why is he there? Of course, because he's teaching about Jesus. And we talked about all the reasons why the Roman Empire kind of frowned upon that sort of thing. And so now there he is, sitting there in the midst of his imprisonment. He begins with a bold statement, very very short, very sweet. What does he say? Do not be anxious about anything. What? Now, some of you might be thinking, whatever, Paul? Dude, you don't know what kind of stuff I'm facing. You don't know the kind of things that I'm going through on a day-to-day basis. You don't know the anxiety that I'm dealing with. But again, I have to remind you, Paul is not speaking out of theory. He's speaking from experience. He had been beaten. He had been shipwrecked. He had been snaked. He had been arrested, thrown in a Roman prison, condemned to die. This guy knew uncertainty. He knew hard times. It's amazing that he can say these words under the circumstances that he's in. He starts off by just saying, don't worry, guys. Don't be anxious about anything. After all that he'd been through, he had the ability to just say, don't be anxious. How? Look at the next part of the verse. What does he say? He gives us a reason. He says, in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. That's amazing. The things that he's going through, man, if that doesn't put our lives into perspective, we whine and complain about the stupidest little things that really are so trivial and have no meaning in the grand scheme of things. When this man is facing the stuff that he's facing, dealing with the things that he's dealing with, and he says, what? Don't be anxious about anything. With thanksgiving in your heart, present your request to God. Whoa! Wow. That's crazy. And there's a secret in all this. He's saying that there's a better way to deal with your future than to worry yourself to death with it. There's another solution involved. And he says, or asks the question basically, do you know, you guys, that you can give your worries to God? And then he can be concerned with even the little small things. Yeah, he's concerned about the big things, but he's concerned about the little things too. It might be your grades. Sure, he cares about that. He can trouble himself about where you're eventually going to go to college. He can stay up all night worrying about who someday you're going to marry. Is she going to be pretty? Yeah, he cares about that stuff too. The secret not to getting dominated or to not getting dominated by these worries is by doing what? By giving it to God. Now, that's not always so easy. You know, you might be sitting here thinking to yourself, well, dude, that just sounds like fluffy Bible stuff, but it doesn't really make a difference in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really help. But God is saying to us, He says, I want you to take the things that you worry about and that are driving you nuts, and I want you to give them to me. What if we actually did that? What if we just tried it and we took a moment and we just said, God, here is what I'm worried about. Here's what's stressing me out. Here's what's keeping me from living a halfway decent life, what's making me miserable. Could you worry about it too? So that I don't have to? It seems simple. Man, so many times the simple things in life are the most profound. That prayer can be powerful if you mean it. Why? Because it gets God involved. It brings Him into your world. Gets Him on the scene and takes that load off your shoulders. But it only works if you're sincere. If you really mean it and you really want it, it doesn't mean it's going to happen like that. It's going to change in an instant. But the more you pray that prayer, and especially when you do it with an attitude and the heart of thanksgiving for what God has given you, and the fact that you can trust Him, it changes who you are on the inside. And maybe it doesn't change in that moment, in that instant, but over the course of time, the more you learn to trust Him, the more you begin to change, the more different you become. And suddenly, you're not burdened and you're not weighed down by all these things that you can't control, these things that you're completely worried about. When you make Him responsible for your worries, He comes in and He brings His power and His plan and His perfection into your world. And something amazing gets put into motion. Now, Andy Stanley, some of you guys might have heard of him, tells a really cool story about an accident that he came upon. Here's what he has to say. He says, several years ago, I witnessed a serious car accident. In fact, I was the first person on the scene after the two cars collided. Now, thankfully no one was seriously injured, but I didn't know when I approached the vehicles. And I opened the driver's side door to one of the cars. Behind the wheel was an older man who looked dazed and confused. I had no idea what to do. So I just started talking. I asked him stupid questions about the weather and his favorite TV shows, and he didn't answer me. So I panicked. When an ambulance showed up, I ran to an EMT to explain the man's condition. Now, the EMT says back to him, he says, "Let us worry about it from here." So as trained professionals, we know that the EMTs and professionals could come in here and they could do a lot more good in that situation than he ever could as a regular guy, right? That's exactly what God is saying to you and me. He says, slow down, man. Hit the pause button. Let me take it from you. I got this. Give your stress to me. Talk to me about it. I actually care about it. Let me get involved. Because my worrying is totally different than your worrying. Because guess what? I can actually do something about it. That's what he's telling us. And that's what's so incredibly freeing about this verse. Now, you can decide, and it is a decision, to let God worry for you. When God's worrying about your worries, you don't have to anymore. Because He loves you enough, and He's smart enough, and He's big enough to handle whatever it is that you're facing, to handle whatever it is that you're dealing with, and the things that are dragging you down and weighing you down and freaking you out. And look what we get in return. Paul throws up another verse for us, and he says, this is what we get in return. The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And isn't that what we're all after when it all comes down to it? Peace? That's a pretty good payoff. That's a trade I'll take every time. According to Paul, it's a peace that passes all understanding. You might have heard that before. It's so amazing. It goes beyond any understanding that we can possibly fathom. In other words, there is no explanation for the peace that we can have anywhere else other than in Him. It doesn't make sense unless there's a God who has it all under control and who can worry for you. Because when God is worried about your worries, you what? Huh? You don't need to. You don't have to. When God is worried about your worries, you don't have to. So, let me ask you this. What future uncertainty comes to your mind as we're sitting here right now? What things are you worried about? What things are consuming your mind and keeping you from being able to live in the moment right now? I want you to identify that in your small group. I want you to talk about those things. Because that thing that you're worried about is exactly the thing that you need to be talking to God about. He loves you. And He cares about you. And He cares about the things that you're worried about, no matter how small or trivial they may seem. Now, you may not get the answer you're looking for, but that doesn't mean He doesn't care. Take it to Him. He cares about you. He cares about those things so much. I want this place to be a place where we can shed our alter egos, where we can be real together. We can be real before God. We can be real before each other. We can be real before the world around us. We don't have to pretend anymore. We can say, yeah, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with that. I'm a sinner saved by grace. I'm a work in progress. God's not finished with me